Great. Welcome, everyone. This is Fix It Fair at Home. And today we have Portland Water Bureau, Penny and Matt. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We're excited to be here. My name is Penny Milton, and I'm here with Matt Weatherly, and we are going to talk with you about a few different water-related things. So, we also usually like to have this as a dialogue, so feel free to put any questions into the Q&A, I believe, and Wing will help us with that. And if you're on Facebook, go ahead and put them as a comment, and Harmony is monitoring that. So here we go. So just before we start, I'd love for you to just put into the chat in either platform who lives in the city of Portland, or just say like where you live, Portland, Gresham. To give you like 30 seconds to do that.
Or that option may be turned off. Sorry, still getting my footing for that. Attendees could raise their hand, though, I think, if they live in the city of Portland.
Okay, no worries. Well,
virtual hand.
Yeah, we're going to be talking mostly about the city of Portland. If you're not in the city of Portland, feel free to comment later, or when we open up the Q&A, we'll have a chance to talk about some resources that are surrounding us, but mostly we're going to be focused on Portland today. And what I hope you're going to come away with are a few things. So I hope that you're going to get a better understanding of our water system and how safe water gets to you. We're going to share some water quality at home tips with you, and we'll be troubleshooting some high leaks and high bills, and just give you some tips for managing that. And then if you have lost income, or if you know someone who may have lost income recently, we have some programs to help, so we hope that you'll get information about those as well. And I'm going to have Wing go ahead and launch our first poll. Do you drink tap water? We'll give you a few seconds here to weigh in on that. Okay, so I'll show the results here. We have always and sometimes, so we're drinking tap water, and that's great, and we're going to talk more about how that water gets to you. So we have two sources here in Portland. We have our groundwater system and the Bull Run watershed. So we're going to talk about both of those today. And I'm going to move us to a stylized map of our water system. So we'll move through this, and we have some pictures, and we can't take you out into the watershed right now, but we hope we'll be able to do that in the future. So until then, we have some beautiful pictures to share about how we get about 1 million people water every day. And it depends on the season, how much water we're serving to our community. That demand ranges from about 80 million gallons per day to up to 130, or even as high as the 160s. So really depends. If we're in that summertime, it's going to be a lot more demand. And I just mentioned the Bull Run watershed. So before I dive into that, I just want to put out there, what is a watershed? So here in this diagram, you can see a watershed is this area of land where all of the rain or the snow that falls on that area is draining and trickling down into a common river or body of water. So in our case, our drinking water is coming together into the Bull Run River, and that is our primary drinking water source in the city of Portland. So where that's located is out towards Mount Hood. It's outside of the town of Sandy. You can see our protection area outlined in orange. I think I can show you on my pointer here. So this is the Bull Run Watershed Protection Area. And then you can see that we're pretty close to Mount Hood. So often people think that our drinking water is coming from Snowmelt on Mount Hood, but it's actually not. There is a ridge that separates Mount Hood runoff from our drinking water. So we're collecting water from this drainage that's right here. And so it doesn't actually have this impact of the glacier melt that's coming off of Mount Hood, which is a good thing, and what this slide is showing. So these kids are actually testing turbidity. And turbidity is basically the amount of suspended stuff in our drinking water. And we don't want to have suspended stuff in our drinking water because things can grow on it and it reduces water quality. So they're testing how clear our water is. And we have very, very clear water because the rocks in our watershed are very hard rocks. They're Columbia River basalt. They're different than what the makeup of the rocks on Mount Hood area. And so that's one of the benefits of where our watershed is located. And this is just a picture of your drinking water. So this is a stream within the watershed. It is obviously not treated yet, so you couldn't drink it right out of the stream, but it's beautiful and it's clear. And it flows into a number of tributaries that eventually just go into the Bull Run River. So we'll go back to our map here and I'll show you where we're at. So we are in the Bull Run watershed. So we're going to be kind of moving from Bull Run Lake. We're going to travel down into our reservoirs, see the dams. So there's one dam and then a second dam, and then we'll head into town and we'll go check out our groundwater system, come back into where our water mixes, and then I'll let Matt take it from there and we're going to talk about how we treat your water. So this is a beautiful picture of Bull Run Lake, crystal clear water. This is a natural lake. We have a small dam on that to be able to hold additional water storage in the lake. Here's the Bull Run River flowing down towards our Reservoir 1. And then this is a picture of Reservoir 1. So we can hold, I believe it is 7 billion gallons of water in this reservoir. I'll fact check myself on that. But then in the back, and I'll show you here on my pointer, this is the dam. So this is what holds back that water. So we've dammed the river so that we have all this storage for those dry summer months. This is a picture of building the dam. It was finished in 1929. And I just love this picture because I've got a car on top of the dam. But then I'll show you a more recent picture where you can see, so this is our dam one. Water can flow over these spillways and a number of ways to be able to get water down the river and towards you into town. This is our Reservoir 2. One of the advantages of both of our reservoirs is actually that we can pull water from different depths. So we can pull the coldest water and send that downstream for fish because we only use about 20% of the water in the river. The rest is going for all the animals and everything else that needs to be supported by that water. So these are towers, intake towers that allow us to pull from those different depths. And now we've just visited Reservoir and Dam 2. We're going to head into town into our groundwater system here. So the groundwater system is a series of wells, 26 drinking water wells. They are out towards the airport along I-84, and they go down to, I believe, around 600 feet is our deepest well. And they're pulling that water up, and that is used to supplement for Bull Run water. Supplement our Bull Run water from aquifers. Here is our groundwater storage tank. And then this is one of our staff members who's doing some monitoring. So in addition to the drinking water wells, we have a number of monitoring wells throughout the well field. If you're driving along the Columbia River, you might see some of these like bunker looking hill things. And so now you can tell your friends, hey, there's a drinking water well under there. So this is just an example of one of our wells. And then that water is piped to Pell Butte. So if you've ever been up to the visitor center, this is a picture of that center, and that's underground, under the center are 2 large tanks, and that's where our water mixes with Bull Run water and then heads out into the rest of our distribution system. Okay. You might also see in town, you might live close to some of these storage tanks or towers. And so that's just part of our distribution system. And just know that they are your drinking water. They help us keep good pressure around the city and store water in different parts of the city to be able to get it out to your home. So when you turn on that faucet, you get water. And then I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and he'll talk about how we keep our water safe along the way.
Great, thanks, Penny. So I've been working with the Portland Water Bureau for over 13 years. Last 4 years, I've been working on promoting lead and water testing and prevention, as well as co-managing our water quality phone line and email, which means I get to talk to customers like you all and try to troubleshoot water quality and pressure issues. Mainly as your water provider, we see public health and the delivery of safe drinking water as our main priorities. We all know that you have your favorite ways to enjoy your drinking water, but you may not know how we get that water safe for you to drink and consume day to day. But before I take you behind the scenes in that process, I want to just run a quick poll just to see how many of you know whether or not our system is filtered. So we're just going to run just a quick poll, just give you a few seconds to just put in your answer whether we filter our water or whether we don't. Sounds like most people have pretty good understanding of our system. So we are actually, well, actually I read that wrong. So we're an unfiltered water system. A lot of people thought that we filter our water. We actually just have minimal treatment. We do not currently have filtration in place. I'll be going into that a little bit later. So our main recipe for delivering safe drinking water is managing it from the source to the tap. So that starts with watershed protection, which Penny had mentioned. And she also had mentioned that we have restricted public access to our watershed. So we have one of the least developed watersheds in the nation. We don't have any industry or logging currently occurring up there. Our recipe also includes monitoring, treatment, and maintenance of our system. And when it comes to monitoring our watershed, we evaluate stream flows, wildlife activity, and many other water quality parameters for, current and long-term kind of trends. And so by studying our watershed's conditions, we're able to more closely monitor our water quality. The next step in our recipe is for delivering safe drinking water is treatment. So we have minimal treatment. We add a small amount of chlorine for disinfection, and then we add a little bit of ammonia to extend that longevity. And so that combination of chlorine and ammonia, it creates a chloramine. So that's just a longer lasting treatment. Some smaller municipalities, they just do chlorine, but with the combination of chlorine and ammonia, that just makes it so that disinfection lasts longer because we are a large municipality. And then third, we asked a little bit of sodium hydroxide. This just adjusts the pH, making the water less acidic and corrosive for indoor plumbing. And a lot of people ask, do we add fluoride? And the answer is no, we actually do not. So we are going to have some changes in the future to our treatment and filtration. So a lot of you thought that we actually filter our water. We actually do not. So in 2027, we will be installing a new filtration system. And then in the next just over a year, we will be improving our corrosion control, which means we'll be adjusting the pH and the alkalinity of the water. And I'll be going into more about that and just more how that's related to lead. So after treatment, we can't just walk away and say, okay, well, our job's done, because we actually have 2,200 miles of pipe in our distribution system. So we strategically located about 95 different sampling stations so that we can actually test and monitor our water regularly. So this is one of our old samplers out testing some water. So we're just basically checking our system's vitals. This allows us to gauge the effectiveness of our treatment and to make sure that if we need to make adjustments, we can. We collect about 11,000 samples a year, which we bring into our laboratory. And so our lab techs, they do about 49,000 water quality tests per year on all of the field samples that we bring in. And all those regulatory samples are validated by our lab and reported to the Oregon Health Authority on a monthly basis. And even before COVID, our lab techs were wearing masks when doing any kind of bacterial analysis to prevent any kind of cross-contamination. But with COVID, our lab and any staff, including myself, entering, we take extra precautions just to make sure that, there's everything is safe and everyone's healthy, because people, hospitals, coffee shops, fire response, everything, you name it, you all need us to continue to deliver safe drinking water during COVID at any time. So to briefly recap, we deliver safe drinking water through watershed protection, monitoring, treatment, and laboratory analysis. But the delivery of safe drinking water wouldn't be possible without proper maintenance. So here's just a few examples of that. A few years ago when we had snow in Portland, it was about 27 degrees out. That's when our main break season happens, and we still have to get out there and make sure that you actually still have water flowing to your home. So we're still going to be out there making repairs. We also annually climb into dark above ground storage tanks. You saw the outside of those that Penny shared. This is the inside. And so all of this is to maintain is to provide adequate pressure to our system and maintain our system. And so this allows you to have adequate pressure at your tap, as well as it allows for, it prevents outside contaminants from getting into our system, as well as adequate pressure for fire response. So that quick video, there was no audio, so don't worry if you can't hear it. This is just kind of a quick visual of our crews. They're using a main break shield, just kind of clamp down and make a repair. So you're still able to receive water while we're actually doing our repairs. Sometimes we have to shut down the water temporarily, but we'll typically let you know. But you can see that the water is being pushed out. So this is an important part of our system, an important part of delivering safe drinking water, to make sure that the water is safe even when there is a break. So we see water quality and safe drinking water is a shared responsibility. And while we do the bulk of that work, we also see that you can provide and play a role in that as well too. So it's especially important when it comes to lead in drinking water. And some of you may have come to this presentation in particular because of that, or even because of the next section, which Penny has to share in regards to water efficiency. But in regards to lead, epidemiologist Dr. Eric Fagel, he explains it really succinctly. Basically, when it comes to medical issues like high blood pressure, heart disease, cholesterol, there's lifestyle, diet change, or even medication. But when it comes to lead poisoning, especially for young children, unfortunately the damage is permanent. So how do you know if your water is safe? So as we mentioned earlier, we treat our water by making adjustments to the pH and making it less corrosive for indoor plumbing. And we're also one of the first municipalities in the nation to voluntarily offer a lead and water testing program to our Portland customers, which means we mail out thousands of kits annually. And if you partake in that process, and if you get high results, we'll contact you and talk to you about ways that you can reduce those high levels of lead. So where does the lead come from? So we do not serve levels, we do not serve water with elevated levels of lead. But once water does enter a home, depending on a number of factors, home plumbing could be contributing to higher levels of lead. And so as a homeowner or a property manager, you're responsible for maintaining the service line, basically that runs from the meter to the home, and also maintaining the indoor plumbing. So a lot of people think that the high exposure it comes from old pipes. So galvanized plumbing, which is on the next slide, that shows basically that's just older iron pipe, and you could do a magnet test by just putting up a magnet, and if it clings to the pipe, then that means that's iron pipe, and that's not going to be lead pipe. That's more common in like Boston, Chicago, Detroit, kind of the Great Lakes area. I mean, those areas, there's places, generally speaking, U.S. has about 6.5 million homes with lead service lines. So luckily, Portland doesn't have that in our district or in our area, but it's kind of less known. So it's more common with homes built between 1970 and 1985. With copper plumbing, which is just shown in the next slide. So in this visual, you can just see the lead solder that's connecting those joints. That's lead, and that is more common with that time period of 1970 to 1985. And so it was banned in 1985, but legislation is really a lot of times behind science. And so fixtures older than 2014 still could contain lead in the brass hardware. So it's a good idea to get those replaced if possible. So it really comes down to the age of the home, when it was replumbed. But I've even had stories where, a father-in-law had good intentions, he replumbed a couple's house, but he used old lead solder. And that was only done like a few years ago. So that's a really good reason why we recommend testing your drinking water, just so that you can determine whether or not there is potential lead that's being released from your indoor plumbing. So if your sample comes back high, these are the same recommendations you know, that we would provide for you, and we would just give you a call and talk to you about ways that you can reduce that. These are kind of the two main things that we recommend: running your water before you're using it, and really only using cold drinking water. But if you live in a home that's built between 1970 and 1985, or an apartment, you know, and you haven't had those tests yet, we definitely recommend doing those two things, with either running the water and definitely using the cold water. Typically, you can run it for like 30 seconds, 2 minutes. That's an effective way to reduce it. Again, only using cold water. Other things that you can do, you can get a filter. There's different types of filters, ones that fit at the end of the faucet, or pitcher style ones. Those are kind of new in the last few years. And if you have some specific questions about those, feel free to put those in the chat, and we can answer those at the end. Also, you know, if you're having discolored water or other specific questions, again, you can add those towards the end. So in regards to ordering a kit, we partner with Multnomah County, so you can either give them a call or go online and easily request a kit that way. We actually send out the kits, we get the list from the county, and then our lab does the analysis. And we just generally recommend that you follow the instructions. So there's instructions in the kits. Just make sure that, you know, because we want to give you the most accurate results, because it really is based on your health. So, you know, don't use your water both indoors or outdoors for at least 6 hours before collecting your sample, because we do want to see sort of the worst case scenario with the corrosion that may be occurring. And we don't recommend it. We'll still test it, but if you collect a sample after the water's been sitting over a long weekend, you know, we'll still collect it, but we still would recommend it's more, you know, collected during a time period like overnight, or if you're away for the day. And then again, if you ever have any questions, feel free to give us a call or email us. And then if you have neighbors, family, or friends that need, you know, some of the materials translated, we can do that as well too. In regards to purchasing products, so definitely be aware of the different types of plumbing products that you can purchase. You know, there's different sort of terminology that's out there. Most of the products are going to be lead-free, just meaning that it has 0.25% lead. Low lead is sort of the old terminology, and that had 8% lead, basically in the actual fixtures themselves. But there's a few things on here. So there's the lead-free valves here, and then there's also, you know, some materials that aren't lead-free, just because they're not considered potable. So the bathtub faucet, the outdoor spigot, those are not going to be low lead. And if you ever see any kind of you know, plumbing material that says no lead, that has no regulatory meaning. So it's the same thing as, you know, kind of the term like natural flavoring in food products. So, you know, look for a product that does say lead-free. And we do also offer free childcare testing for childcares located in Portland. So if that's something that you or someone else is looking at starting up, feel free to contact us, and we also have information about that. And if you're concerned about your child's exposure, feel free to request a blood level test from your doctor. Pre-COVID, the Multnomah County Health Department, they were offering free pop-up clinics. They're not currently doing that, just to reduce you know, large public gatherings. But you still can request that from your doctor. And Multnomah County is doing sort of COVID safe investigation. So if a child does come back high with lead levels, you know, they can work with us and we can test the water. Typically it is related to lead-based paint, so that's something that you could also chat with the lead line about. So this is just myself and KT. This is our contact information. You know, we have interpretation services, so if anyone needs to give us a call in another language, feel free to give us a call. And we're really good at you know, responding via email as well as the phone line. So I'll wait to answer some questions at the end, and I'm just going to turn it back over to Penny. Thanks.
Huh, sorry about that. I don't know where I went, but I'm here. here we go. Okay, so managing your water use. We're going to talk about your bill and ways that we can help and hopefully answer some of your questions related to how to bring that bill down if you have a high bill. Whoops, 1 minute here. There we go. Okay, we're going to launch another poll. How much water do Portlanders use on an average day? So gallons per day. Go ahead and lock in your votes there. Okay, and then Wing, you can show that whenever you're ready. Okay, so we have a couple guesses at 25 and some at 48 gallons per day. So nice work, Portland. We do use 48 gallons per person per day on average here in Portland. So that is pretty low compared to the rest of the city. 1 second here. But it can seem like a lot. So we're going to talk through kind of where that goes, what's a normal bill, how you can bring that down even farther. So really water use depends on a lot of different things. It depends on the number of people that live in your home, especially now if you have extra people with you, kids home from college or things like that. It depends on the age of your fixtures. If you have very old shower heads, very old toilets, that can increase your water use quite a bit. Of course, leaks, which actually are a much higher percentage than folks think, and behavior. So if you like to, or if you have kids that, take baths every day, that might be a bigger water use than like taking a 5-minute shower. So on average for a household, which is a little less than 2.5 people, so, use that in your head to kind of multiply out, but it would be 15 CCF per quarter, which I know doesn't make sense, so I'm going to explain that. So we bill quarterly, so every 3 months, and 1 CCF is equal to 748 gallons. So utilities use CCF, I'm not sure why, but that is the volume of measurement that is how we measure your water. So I always like to convert that to gallons. So I take the number of CCF, multiply that by 748, and then I get the gallons that I'm using, which makes a lot more sense in my head. So we'll talk about how where your water use goes. So this is an average across the country. Portlanders were included in this study, but it's a national study. And typically most of our water is used through the toilet. So I spend a lot of my time talking about toilets, because even just when they're working well, they're our highest use of indoor water. When they're leaking, they're a huge inconvenience and can mean really high bills. You can see how the rest of it breaks down, and then I'll highlight leaks are 12% of our indoor water use, which we want to bring that way down because we don't even get to use that water. It's just gone before we get to it. So toilets, I mentioned, largest use of water in our home. For toilets, age really matters. So if you have an older toilet pre-1992 in Oregon, it is going to be over 1.6 gallons per flush. So if you have a toilet from the 50s, you could have a 7-gallon per flush toilet, which is crazy, right? You don't want to flush 7 gallons down the drain. So we want to get those out, and we do have rebates available to help with that. Our typical rebate is $50 per toilet, and it would be $100 if it is a customer who's enrolled in our build discount program, which we'll get to in just a minute. And again, common source of leaks. So I'm always happy to troubleshoot that over the phone, and we have some great videos and resources to help you find and solve those leak mysteries. So just a breakdown of how much your toilets cost, even when they are not leaking. So this is just based on water and sewer costs per year per person. So you can see if you reduce to a WaterSense toilet, so if you switch out your old model into a WaterSense model, which would be 1.28 or better gallons per flush, you're going to be, about a quarter of what you would be at if you had a toilet from the 50s to the 80s. So huge savings just by replacing those toilets, and then you're not going to be paying that all year in water and sewer bills. You do need to recycle your old toilet, and I can always answer questions about that and help you get through that. And it's just a simple online form to get that rebate. Look for that WaterSense label. You can go into most department stores or hardware stores, and you'll just look for a WaterSense labeled toilet, and they're all over the place. So that's really good that they're so available in the market now. Another thing I want to teach you how to do and empower you to do after this workshop is to find your water meter. If you live in a single family home, this is going to be easier. If you're in an apartment, this can be tricky because your water meter might be in a larger vault. But if you're in a single family home, you can go out towards the curb, start looking around for a metal plate that has a W or says water on it, and you're going to lift up that lid to get into where the meter is itself. So you want to find the meter, open the box, wear gloves so that there aren't any spiders or things to get you. But what you're looking for is that face plate. So you're going to lift the lid and you're going to look at the meter face. And I'm going to highlight a few things on here. So the most important dial is what I'm pointing at right now, which is this little spinning triangle. So this is the leak detection dial. That spins when there are very small amounts of water moving through the meter, as opposed to the sweep hand, which is going to move much slower. So this is measuring larger volumes of water. So you're going to look for this little triangle. On some, it could be a little snowflake. And if that is spinning when no one is using water inside your home, then you have a leak and you want to figure out where that is. So you go inside, you want to make sure nobody's washing laundry, nobody's, brushing their teeth, anything like that. Go out, check your meter, look for that little spinny dial. And then always feel free to give us a call and we can kind of talk through that with you and figure out where it might be or give you some ideas on how to resolve that leak. But I know high bills are maybe what brought some of you here. So I want to talk through that as well. So this is just an example bill, and I'm sure you know the account number and the amount due, but I want to highlight this days of service. So this is how many days the bill is covering, and this varies. So if you have a higher bill, you might first look to see if this is covering more days than usual for you. This days of service will also help you figure out how many gallons per day you're using, and that usage is over here. So you have water volume usage and sewer volume. And this is going to be a little bit fast. So again, call me. I'd love to talk with you about this later. But your sewer volume is based on your winter water use on average. So we assume that the water you use during the winter, you are using in your home and is going down the pipes into the sewer. And so that sewer volume is to help clean that water that is going into the sewer into our system. In the summertime, you might use water out to water a garden or fill a pool or something like that. So you're not going to get charged for those for sewer on that, because that water is then just going to go into your yard and not into the sewer drain. So hopefully that makes sense as to why you might see different charges on here. We don't have meters on the sewer, we just have meters on the water. So that's how we calculate that sewer and water volume. But if you wanted to know your gallons per day, you could do a little quick math or call me, and you can multiply 25 CCF by that magic number, which was 748 gallons. And then if you wanted the gallons per day itself, then just divide by your number of days of service. And then we actually have a link that I will make sure is shared, that basically you just put in these numbers and it's going to calculate it for you in a nice, easy form. But there you know the math if you want to do it on your next bill. Now I'm going to go back one. You will see a reduction here. This Clean River Rewards is a program that is basically if you're able to manage the water that falls on your property and keep it in your property, like you have disconnected downspouts, you have a lot of trees that absorb that water, then you can get a discount on your on-site stormwater charges and have that completely taken off. So that's the Clean River Rewards program. And there's a link in this presentation to that, which we will share. So these are, I'm going to talk about kind of two kinds of programs. There is the income-based programs, and then there's programs that are open to anyone that are not based on income. So with the income-based, just know that we have a bill discount. We have a free leak repair program. So if you meet those bill discount requirements, we can actually fix your leaks entirely for free. We can replace service lines, we can replace toilets, fix leaky faucets, all of that. And it just needs to be water leaks, not sewer leaks. We also have crisis assistance. So if you know someone that maybe just got into a hard situation and needs to have a big chunk of their bill reduced, we can credit up to $500 off of a large bill to be able to get that down to a more manageable situation. That happens sometimes if people have really large leaks. There will be a leak adjustment if they're able to fix that leak, but then this would kind of get rid of more of that larger balance that might be still on the bill. So that could be really helpful to just know about. But for everyone, you know, just keep in mind, there are lots of ways to pay. There are different payment arrangements that can be made. So if you need to just pay $20 this month and then set up arrangements to pay the rest later, our customer service crew is great and they're happy to work with folks on that. You can pay online. I mentioned if you have a leak, make sure to call us, because we can look back and see what was your normal bill like, and then adjust your bill back towards that bill rather than a really large bill that you might have had from a leak. And then we're going to talk more about conservation devices and some assistance that we offer in that area here too. But before we get to that, I want to mention the bill discount income ranges, because a lot of people think, you know, I wouldn't qualify for any kind of program, but you might. So, or you might know someone that might. So if you are one person, your max income is here, and just kind of, you can see how that grows towards the larger household sizes. So if you might qualify, please submit an application. You can apply online or get a paper application, and then we'll help you through that process, and that discount will stay on for 2 years before you need to apply again. Free leak repair. So this is what I was just talking about. If you are qualified for the program, the bill discount program, you're automatically qualified for this program if you own your home. So you just need to be a homeowner and enrolled in the bill discount. And then we can fix all of these things: pipes, showers, toilets, etc. Please call us. We'll get your leaks fixed. And we work with partners to do that who coordinate directly with plumbers. So it will be a plumber who comes in and does the repair, and a high quality job. Free conservation devices. We give these out to anyone and everyone within our service area because we want everyone to be water efficient. So you can get free shower heads. That's this up here. Oops. You can get aerators, this little guy. So this goes on the end of a faucet and helps reduce water but still have good pressure. And then you'll have leak detection tablets. Those are just like food coloring basically that you put in the toilet tank. You're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes. If you see that coloring come into the bowl, then you have a toilet leak, and we can figure out how to fix that. So that's just an easy way to figure out. You can do the same thing with 10 drops of food coloring. And then shower timers, hose nozzles. This is a fun device that goes in the back of a toilet. It saves about a ½ gallon per flush. It's called a fill cycle diverter. Typically at Fix-It fairs, I get to bring my fake toilet, but just know that it connects to that fill an overflow tube that goes down to fill the bowl itself. And I can talk through that, but it's pretty easy to just attach in there, and then you have a ½ gallon savings. So I just want to mention that our customer service is probably the best place to start for any of these programs. So we've talked about a lot of different things today, but you can always call or email customer service, and they'll get us or get you back to us. But if you want to call me directly, My number is here. That's my work cell phone. Or you can call our hotline, which goes to my coworker, Nick, and he's great and can help out too, or email if that's easiest for you. So I know that was a lot, but we're going to pause and see if there are any questions and just open that up to you. And then, yeah, that's what we got. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Penny. This is Wing with Fix It Fair. There were a lot of links and emails and phone numbers in that, and we'll make sure that those are included everywhere this recording of this presentation is presented to. So it'll be on our website. We'll link that through our Facebook page as well, and then on our YouTube as well. And then we'll also get some of that out in our new e-newsletter, which folks can visit us online to sign up for. For attendees, a Q&A is open. If you hover over your screen, you should see a Q&A option, pops open a box, and then you can type questions in there. And I think, Penny and Matt, if you're okay with hanging out here for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and Matt and I really do love talking to people. So please do call us or email us. And, you know, no question is too small if you just think of something later. And I'm always happy to do, if you want more of like a water use history, we can look back a few years on your account and give you some fun graphs and charts and help you understand where you've been and how you might reduce even more.
Yeah, same thing for our department in regards to water quality. So if you're just moving into a home or a rental or any apartment and you're concerned that you think, you know, before you actually get a test and you'd like to know maybe whether or not the home has been tested prior, you know, we can take a look and you can just give us a call or email us and we can look at that too.
Penny and Matt, we have an interesting question in the question and answer. What kind of tool do you need to open the water meter cover?
Yeah, so typically if it's just well, I'll answer this and Matt, you tell me because you've had lots of experience with meters too. So my experience has been if it's a residential meter, I just need like a flathead screwdriver. There's usually like a little indent that helps you kind of pop that metal plate up. And you can kind of even do it without that, but that's helpful to have. There's no other special tool that you would need to be able to just lift that up unless it's a larger kind of vault style meter. Matt, have you had any other experience?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is if their meter's in a driveway, it might be one of those larger covers that are kind of heavier iron with the bumps around like the border, and those usually have like a handle. But it, you know, and our meter readers are out there regularly. So if somebody can't locate it, that typically it's actually finding it. So sometimes it might not actually be directly out front of your house. It might be in an alley where your service line is connected, but the larger ones might be a little more difficult. But yeah, like you mentioned, the majority of them are smaller and it's just, yeah, flathead screwdriver.
Matt and Penny, we have another question of, does treatment of the water or filtration of the water affect the taste when it comes to our homes?
Oh, that's a good question. I can try to answer that. So we do a taste profile, and it typically, you know, the change in water, you know, kind of taste and odor really occurs once it's entering a house. I mean, generally speaking, people kind of, when they drink water, you kind of don't want it to have a taste or odor, right? I mean, so, but sometimes, you know, we do make adjustments to the chlorine levels seasonally. So during the warmer months, we bump up the chlorine levels, you know, for protection, and then we drop it back down, which we'll actually be dropping in the next couple months, or next couple weeks, sorry. So sometimes you might notice a little bit of chlorine taste or odor. Typically not, because we don't add that much. More commonly, people might notice more of a metallic taste. That kind of is something more common. But there's a pretty wide range in palates and people's descriptions of what they're tasting. So some folks can always give us a call or email us again if they're noticing something out of the range of what they normally taste.
I have one more for you. Is there anything that we can do, like from a home standpoint, to help prevent breaks in pipes, like between our homes and the streets? Like, is there just best practices to help not have that happen?
Do you want to take that one, Matt?
Sure. Yeah. So there's different methods to insulate your plumbing. I mean, starting with, especially now with this season, it's the colder season, definitely putting covers on your outdoor spigots. So just weatherizing those is really important. And then if you want, you can also put insulation around your pipes. That'll actually keep some of your pipes cooler when they need to be during the summer as well too, and then warmer during the colder months, because this is the time of year where we just get a lot of what we call service line breaks. So it's not uncommon because there's just a lot, the water is a lot colder because of the outdoor temperatures, and so we see that occur. So that is something important to do.
And we have 2 questions coming in through the chat. One is, how do you find the main water shutoff valve in your house? We'll answer that and then cover the next one.
I'll give it a shot, and then Matt will jump in, because we've had discussions about this and how they are hard to find. So if you can find your meter, that's one place to start, and just walk back towards your home in a logical line to try to figure out, what side of the home. So typically, if you have a meter, on one side, the service line isn't going to go like woo all around. It's going to go to the path of least resistance back to your home. It can be outside of your home towards the base of the foundation. It can also be inside sometimes. But Matt, do you want to talk about any luck that you've had helping people locate those?
Yeah, it's a common question I get. And so, like you'd mentioned, just kind of looking straight from your meter and going from there into your house. I mean, it can be in crawl spaces, it can be in basements, it could be near where your other utilities are, typically like your hot water tank. Those are probably the most common locations. And I think it's pretty easy to locate, but there's been some instances where they, like, I don't know why, but the builder actually just walled over it, and some people have not been able to find them, but most people can. And then if you are wanting to turn it off, just make sure that it's done safely and that the valve isn't like really rusted, because you don't want to cause any breaks.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've had some customers that have tried to shut it off there, and then that valve has failed, and then they've got another issue. You can also, just like something to keep in your mind, you can shut the water off at the meter, but that's not something that we recommend typically doing. But it's just good to know in a case of an emergency that you can use a key. There's just looks like a T kind of tool, and you can shut it off there. But typically, and the Water Bureau can also respond and come shut off the water if there is some kind of crazy emergency. But that's dependent on the availability of crews and things like that. But just know that there are kind of those 2 places, your shut off and the meter, that you can stop the water in a case of a large break. Yeah,
and just to mention, if you do need us as the Water Bureau to come and turn off your water, that can be done 24/7. I mean, we over the weekends we have, it might not be immediate depending on other emergencies that we're responding to, but we can get out to your home in a reasonable amount of time and shut that water off. If you want the water then restored and turned back on, say you're out of town or something like that, we would need you to be present and on site if we're going to turn it back on.
And then we have the second question there, and this will be our last question live today. And then you can send any other questions to either Fix It Fair or the info that Penny and Matt provided. Our final question is, if I received a water efficiency package, including a shower head from the city a year ago, but I need a new shower head now, can I get a new one now from the city without the other stuff that usually comes in the package?
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yes. You can go online, and there's like a custom form that you can just fill out and say you just want the shower head. We also have handheld versions of shower head if that's easier. You can just put that in the notes that you want the handheld version, and yeah, submit it as just a shower head, and that's what we'll mail out.
Great. Thank you, Penny. Matt, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate your time. And again, if anybody has questions, you can reach out to either the Water Bureau or Fix It Fair.
Yeah, thanks for being here, everybody.
All right, thanks a lot.